So I own a property management in Oklahoma City, but I'm going to tell you something that most property managers are going to tell you. You don't need a property manager. And that's the truth. If you just have a couple doors, you could do it yourself. I started off doing it myself, and I eventually started a company doing it. But you don't have to have a property manager. If you're local, you can go out on Saturday and deal with an issue and not afraid to take a phone call, then it's not that much work to do. But there is a threshold at which it becomes too much work. For me, it was 5 doors. It was a lot easier whenever I had 1 or 2. Once I hit that 5, it became quite a pain to handle everything that was going on. So for you, where are you in that journey? And where do you want to be? So today we're going to break down all the different aspects that go into property management and when that threshold is going to be hit for you to make the best decision on the property manager for you. So for me personally, my breaking point was 5 doors. But for you, it may not always be 5 doors. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3. There's a lot of things that go into this. So people don't think with leases that it really matters, with renting houses, because it's really easy, right? But there's a lot of different things that go into it. So I'll give you a story. So I was doing this myself and I had other stuff going on. I had a W-2 job and I only had a couple doors. And so I reached out to my tenants and I all knew them pretty well at this point. And I said, hey, do you want to renew your lease for next year? And they're all like, yeah, we're good to renew our lease. And I was like, okay. And then I got busy. It was spring, summer, and I was busy with vacation and stuff like that. And a couple weeks later, I get around to finally doing the lease renewal and I send it to the tenant. I was like, hey, here's the lease renewal we talked about, the terms we talked about. And I'm like, oh, we actually went and found another house and she didn't send us a lease renewal. I'm like, wait a second. And honestly, one of the most expensive things in property management and in rental houses is the turn, right? You want to keep your tenants as long as possible. So by me not hiring a property manager and me doing it all myself, I actually cost myself a turn and cost myself a few $1,000s. Did I really save anything by doing that? The truth is no. The other thing that you got to think about is whenever you have a property manager, there are rules in place, right? So for us as 1907, we have rent is due on this time. We have our maintenance requirements. We have late fees built in, all these different things that are built in. Whenever you're doing it on your own, you probably don't have what's called a PMS system, property management system, in place. You are likely doing it on QuickBooks or doing it on a ledger or somewhere. And so if someone's late, they'll be like, hey, is it all right? Or they'll just drop off their rent in your mailbox and it's 2 days late, but they don't pay any late fees. And you just let it roll, right? But whenever you're treating like a business and like a property manager, that's not how this works. Your rent is due when your rent is due. Your rent is late when your rent is late. These are the rules. And so it will better protect you and keep better cash flow coming in. So honestly, having a property manager may not actually cost you anything because the processes are in place to make sure that your profit is being maximized versus whenever you're doing it on your own, your job should be your W-2 job, right? Not this. And so by having property management handle your properties, you're able to actually get more money in your pocket. All right, so let's break down the math. So how much are you really saving by not having a property manager? So for us, our management fees are going to range on a monthly basis between $100 and $200, depending on the house. So let's just say that it's an average of $150, right? How many hours are you spending a month doing property management? So you've got answering texts from tenants, you've got rent that came in that you got to go to the bank and deposit, you got to reconcile your trust account, your bank accounts, you've got to handle maintenance, you got to handle marketing on the new property, you got to handle vacancies. There's a lot of different things that go into it. So let's just say it averages out to 5 hours a month. So if you do the math on that, $150 divided by 5 hours, that's $30. How much are you making in your W-2 job? How much are you making doing something else that you're good at, right? Are you making more than 30? If the answer is yes, then you're definitely better off to hand off the property management to somebody else. But everything we do in life is a decision of, do I do it myself or do I hire somebody, right? So you go to the grocery store, you're most likely not growing your own food, right? So it's more efficient for you to have a farmer grow the food for you, and then you go to the grocery store and buy the food than it is for you to grow it yourself. Could you grow it yourself? Yeah, you could. It's not that hard to grow, but it's not that you're not the most efficient at it. The same thing goes with your car, changing the oil in your car. Could you do it? Yes, they're not that hard to change, Do you want to do it? No, probably not. This is the same thing. Our job here at 1907 is to make sure that we're maximizing the money coming into every month, because this is what we're most efficient at. So you're handing off the job that you're not efficient at to somebody who is efficient at it to maximize your income and to give you the peace of mind to not have to worry about it. So let's talk about if you're out of state. That opens up a whole new can of worms, right? Because we're here, we see the property, and I've always been here with my own properties. But if they're out of state, who's really watching them for you? Are you trusting the tenant? Because the tenant is not on your side when it comes to condition of the property. So what we really want to look at is, how are you making sure that you're being taken care of? Hiring a local property manager is going to be an advocate on your side. For us, we actually go out twice a year and do inspections on the property to make sure they look good. We're going to the properties before the tenant moves in, we're checking it. We're doing it before a tenant moves out, we're checking it. We're checking the property to make sure that it's in good condition. We're not leaving guesswork of what the property looks like. It also keeps an issue of a tenant may destroy a property, right? If a tenant destroys a property, like, how do you know? I've had owners that have been out of state and they haven't been here in 10 years, and there was a tenant in the house, and the tenant just destroyed the property and they had no clue. Whenever I sent them pictures of how bad it looked and said, hey, you've got a $40,000 renovation on your hands, they're like, no, we don't. And I sent them the picture and said, yeah, you do. And sure enough, they really did have that, because the tenant had destroyed the house. That's why it's so important to have somebody local to keep an eye on the property, to make sure that the property is being cared for to the best of the ability of whoever is in charge. So the other thing you got to keep in mind is when you're out of state is you have local laws that you're going to have to deal with. So you're going to have these laws that you may not know because they're different in the state. We'll go into a little bit more of that in the next section. But the other thing that you got to keep in mind is whenever you have these properties, you've got to have a trust account. You've got to make sure you keep up with all the money in the trust account, which is the tenant security deposit. And the other thing is, whenever a tenant goes to move out, you've got to document all the damages, and you can only charge damages that are actual cost. So you have to keep that in mind as well, that you can't just charge willy-nilly for your time. You have to charge for the cost, and that is specified in state law. So there's a lot of landmines, and especially if you own properties in different states, these different states are going to have all kinds of different laws that you're going to have to keep in mind. All right. So as we kind of talked about in the last section, the eviction laws and the laws in general are kind of be a little different depending on where you are in the country, but they're also very different depending on where you are here. Oklahoma has the landlord-tenant laws that are very specific in the process for an eviction and other legal proceedings. And it's confusing, honestly. I have to go back and reread it every year because it's weird, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything the right way. And so you have to make sure that you're following this, because if you get, and I've seen it many times, you go to court, I've been to court many times, and I watch people who are individual landlords who don't know the process, right? And so you think, hey, the tenant hasn't paid, I'm going to go to court, I'm going to get the house back. And then they don't. The judge is like, hey, you didn't do this, this, and this. So we, as a property management company, we know what the rules are. We have a process built out around the rules. And here's the real fun part. It really depends on your county too. So for example, most of our business is in Oklahoma or Cleveland County. We also have Canadian, Potawatomi, and a few other counties, but the vast majority of our business is in those two. Between those two, the rules differ, which is really annoying because it's all by the same state law, but how the judge and how the district attorney in that county interprets that law is different. So we've got to keep in mind that hiring a property manager is going to solve this problem for you, because they're going to know the process, they're local, and they're able to be more efficient. A lot of people will go and have a tenant who's not paying, and it may take them 45, 60 days to get somebody out. Whereas for us, we'll have them out by the end of the month that they didn't pay. So it's really important, and that's a lot of cash flow that's going to be held up because of that, because you've got to get the property turned to get it back on the market for it to start cash flowing again. So make sure that you're hiring a property manager who's local and knows what they're doing. That way you can make sure that you're following all the local laws and eviction procedures for that area. So if you have one property or just a couple and you're self-managing and you're okay with it and able to handle it, then awesome. Keep up with it and keep going. If you're hitting that breaking point, like it was for 5 doors for me, then now it's time to reach out and let's have a conversation about it. We can most certainly help you out. Below, you'll find a link that will go to my team, where we will analyze your property, make sure that you're maximizing for completely free. We're not going to charge you anything for this. And we're going to talk about the benefits of having a property manager. It's really important to maximize your cash flow, and that's what we're here for. So if you like this content and you want to learn more about Oklahoma City real estate investing, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.